Okay, so welcome, Alo. I'm so happy you're here with me and grateful you're here with me today to talk about your journey through healing from OCD and anxiety. So thank you for being here today.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you perfect.
Ah, perfect. And I couldn't hear you there for a second. That's all.
Great. Alo, I just want to share that I'm grateful to have you on the podcast today and to share your journey from healing with OCD and anxiety.
Great. Delighted to be here, Linda.
Brilliant. So, Alo, just before as we get started, just want you to just give a background of when you start to notice a decline in your mental health, and if you can just share a little bit of your journey
Yeah, no
through that.
problem. I suppose I've probably always felt that I had anxiety from a very young age, and in particular, I at the time I wouldn't have known the term OCD as a child, but I would have had intrusive thoughts, I suppose, as a child in relation to certain things. But I suppose it really started like for me becoming very intrusive and you know impacting my daily life when I was around 16. So my grandfather passed away, and that was probably the first death I've ever experienced in life. And it really, whatever it did, kind of triggered something in me. And I noticed then from about 3 to 4 weeks after that, like the intrusive thoughts started to becoming um, more frequent, and they began getting more like upsetting and disturbing to me. So they would come in ways of, harm OCD, some intrusive thoughts, or just feeling uncomfortable about around people you loved, and family and friends. So initially, what you would do because you got the fright, like you would kind of go inside, you would you know, become more introvert, and stop being as outgoing as I would have been. So that's probably like I'd say 16 was probably when it really started to become an issue for me in my life.
Hmm. And when you've had them as a child, do you remember like what age they kind of start at, and were they kind of fleeting, or did you feel scared at the time around that? Were they like obsessive, or they were just scary thoughts, but then you're able to go about and still be that child?
So yeah, like most of the time I would have, yeah, like I'd have a thought and it was kind of scary or, daunting, but I was able to kind of shake it off and just go on and,
Hmm.
forget about it. But there were like I know in particular there were like a few incidents where like I would have a thought and then like I would be scared about it and I would obsess about that for months.
Hmm.
Like for example, I remember being must have been around 9 or 10, and I remember seeing a documentary about the Chernobyl disaster. And I mean, like for months, I was thinking about that on and off,
Hmm.
you know, um, just and like I didn't know why.
Hmm.
I couldn't understand why at the time. And then gradually, I suppose I was young enough. I kind of just, after a period of time, like, and this would have been like months, on and off. And after a period of time, it just stopped. It stopped being intrusive to me. It just stopped.
Okay. Did you share that with anyone, Alo, like when you were that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, like I'm kind of lucky in the sense that my relationship with my parents and my siblings, we were always very quite open with each other. So like I would have told my mom and dad that I was having those thoughts. Now I don't think my mom and dad understood what it was either at the time. They just,
Yeah.
would have just, childish anxieties or, you know, just, like they would have been aware, like they were quite clued in, like, and, but I don't think, they would have understood like what it was.
Sure. I know,
Yeah,
and I think for kids, because with kids they're so, exposed to different types of video games or stuff like
yeah,
that, or movies, we kind of little they can have fears or nightmares, and if it can be classified as that as well.
oh,
It's
yeah,
it can be hard to see it in a child as well. Um,
absolutely.
when you're at that age at 9, and you're having them, intrusive thoughts, did you have any compulsive behaviors? Did you,
Yeah,
check anything or go to anyone
I
for insurance?
well, it wasn't reassurance from people. It was definitely like mental compulsions for me.
Hmm.
So I would have had a thing with counting.
Okay.
So like fours. I would have done things in fours, eights, six. I would have had to, and like, it would have had to be symmetrical. So, like, when I was counting, I would count in fours, and it would have to end on a four or an eight or a 16 or a 32 or a 64.
Hmm.
Like, it's funny. Like, now when I think back, like, you know, that was just like
Mm.
that just became so normal for me.
Mm.
That was just something I did,
Mm.
or I would count the number of letters in a word, um, and it just became so automatic
Of
that,
course.
yeah, like I didn't even realize it was a
Yeah.
compulsion,
Mm.
and to be honest, it didn't really affect me
Hmm.
as a young child. Like, it's just something I did, and
Yeah.
I wasn't worried about it or thinking about it.
Yeah.
But it
And
wasn't.
it's amazing to see how kids, even at that age for yourself, like, because I talk to kids, the parents of kids that experience different types of OCD behaviors, and like how amazing it is in a way how the brain will come up with different kind of ways to counteract these feelings through counting or praying, or it'll just try to find a way, navigate through a way to try to cope with this uncertainty and these feeling states inside.
Absolutely, yeah, it really will.
Mm.
Any type of relief.
Yeah. So then when you talk about, I suppose, that time when your granddad passed away, that was
Mm.
really when it started to become a major problem in your life, is it?
Yeah, that's when I really, found that the intrusive thoughts became more and more, and it started affecting me on a daily basis. Like, everything kind of changed in the sense, like, I became more withdrawn. Now, so my friends probably wouldn't have noticed it because I was very good at hiding it and masking it, as you do, because when you're a teenager, you don't want to, you don't admit like there's something going on. You don't want to seem different to anyone else, so
Yeah.
you put on this uh, charade, I suppose. When you're,
Yeah.
everything's good, everything's good, but inside, like, I was struggling.
Hmm.
Um, I remember, like, when you're 16, 17, 18, puberty, it's a very kind of confusing time anyway.
Yeah.
And, you're going through a lot. So your thoughts, were really, they really zoned in on insecurities I would have had already.
Hmm.
And it's like it was very clever. It knew what to play on and what not to.
Hmm.
So it was, and then I would, like, I was, I could cope for a while, but then, like, it wore me down eventually. And then I remember going to see somebody. The first time I went to see someone was, I think I was about 18. I remember I was in the GP with my man for something, and then I just came home that day and I kind of broke down, saying, listen, I'm not okay.
Mm.
And so I found, and my mom was always a great source of support for me. So we just had a chat, and she found a counsellor that worked down the road from us. Um, and I have to be honest with you, I'm not, like, that counsellor probably saved my life at the time and just made everything okay for me. Like, so I remember when I went in and spoke to her about the thoughts I was having, like, she explained to me that she didn't call it OCD, but she was a GP herself who became a counsellor. Her name was Maud McKee. She was a lovely woman, and she said, like, the thoughts you're having are the polar opposite to your personality and what you would do ordinarily. And she said that's why those thoughts are so upsetting for you.
Hmm.
And that was a release for me. That was the first time anyone had ever said to me, you are not, like, basically, you are not your thoughts. These are
Yeah.
not who you really are. And that for me was
Mm.
massive. Like,
And that's
it,
amazing,
it,
Nalo. It's
yeah,
amazing, and just, I suppose how important it is to reach out, and
100,
you
yeah,
know, from my own experience, and talking to people with OCD, and how they've gone to certain people like yourself, that's really, they've really found, like, has lifted that, like, weight off them to go, wow, this is actually not me, and it gives them some relief. It definitely helps. And then you've other people where they go to people and say, well, you know um they'll put, there'll be other things said, and the
mm,
person will be feeling even worse, so it is important that a person
absolutely.
knows,
I
to
was
get
like,
the
yeah,
support they need.
I absolutely they do, and I was just really lucky, I suppose, that the first person I went to was the right person for me,
Mm.
and that she was such a caring woman. She was so she was so forward thinking. She wasn't like she was like for her, she was one of the first person I've ever heard talking about mindfulness as well.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the, like this was like 25 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is, this is back at time when I'd never heard what it was, and she was explaining to me what it was, and we would do
Yeah.
mindful exercises. So she was all into holistic.
Yeah.
She was into the holistic approach to healing, and
Amazing.
she was very kind of for healing from within
Mm-hmm.
as well. And
Yeah.
like the last thing she ever wanted to do was like put people like and prescribe medication, because now not that medication doesn't have a place, and we'll probably get into that a little bit later, but she was like, listen, she looked at the body as a whole,
Yeah.
and she was like, you can hit like you can heal from within as well as if you need exterior help. Do you get me?
Yeah. That's powerful, and that's amazing because she really, by you going to that person as well and be actually opening up to somebody,
Mm,
and because not everyone will be able to understand, and they don't even need to understand, just to have that compassion to really guide the person that to understand that the thoughts are not you, but this emotional reaction. But that would have really been a lifesaver for you, I'm sure, at that age, because you're so young
massive. Yeah.
and vulnerable and going through all the normal things that everyone does at that age. But then on top of having all these unwanted obsessive intrusive thoughts is very challenging at such a young
Yeah.
age.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so like she was great sense,
Yeah.
of support, and unfortunately she passed away.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. Oh,
so and because then when I had it, I didn't know, and then I had another episode later on when when I went to look her up, she wasn't there. Like she
yeah.
was, yeah,
Yeah. But she really give you that step to know that
100%.
there's something more than just
But
you
she, yeah, and I
sorting
think,
yourself.
I always had this innate in me anyway to always look, but I think she as well was a great set, like as in she always kind of told me to like look for support in other places.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
she would always promote like, there's other ways to heal, there's other ways to process. It's not just about, it's not just about talking or medication. Like she was big into the breath work
Hmm.
and breathing, being mindful, going within.
Yeah.
So I think as well, like the fact that I had that from her, I think that was always kind of made me look outward for different
Yeah.
things.
Of course. Yeah. You're curious for other
Yeah.
methods to heal as opposed to just the one method or the couple of things that maybe
Well,
people are just
yeah,
stuck on.
because I think I would have found some relief from the mindfulness,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
So you knew there was something in that. That was amazing. So
definitely.
then from then what happened then? I suppose what was the journey then up to from that? So you started to feel a bit better, and what kind of started
Yeah.
to happen then, I suppose, transpired?
So yeah, I've, felt better. Went to college to do media initially, and everything was going well. And then, I could just feel, things were creeping back in, obsessive thoughts again, coming back in. And then I suppose I got to a point where I was really, struggling. So that was the first time I kind of encountered, medication
Hmm.
for OCD, and I was prescribed an SSRI called efitelopram.
Okay.
So I think the brand name would be Lexapro.
Hmm.
Um, and I have to say at the time it was really very good for me.
Brilliant.
Uh, so what it did was it gave me that space to relax, and it took away the intrusive thoughts. But what
Okay.
I left for a while,
Yeah.
not fully, but for a
So did
while.
you say, can I
So
just ask you around that,
yeah,
Alo, did you say that did it help with the intrusive thoughts? There were, so we want to just clarify as well that um we all know that everyone thinks intrusive thoughts, like
yeah,
everybody. But the difference is with OCD, it's the obsessional nature of the intrusive thoughts that are causing the issues. Um, would you say that that medication at the time helped you just to ease the reaction response, and then the intrusive thoughts, the obsessional intrusive thoughts, did they not come at all, or were they just less frequent?
I'd say. less frequent and didn't bother me as much.
Hmm.
Now,
Yeah.
but that didn't last.
Okay.
So I got a couple of years, I think, from that. But what I found then was I was still having them, but like I was filling my day. I was making myself so busy.
Hmm.
So I was like, right, I'll do this, and this. So I won't have time to think about it. Now I didn't realize I was doing that. I was doing it subconsciously,
Yeah.
or I was, I was. So like what I had, I remember like at a time. This is what I was at in 2009. What was I? 24, 25. I would have been working Monday to Friday, and I was playing football with a team. I was coaching a senior adults team, and I was coaching a junior schoolboy team. So it was literally Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Saturday, Sunday football.
Wow.
And and I remember I was like Friday night was the only night I had where I wasn't doing something. And I remember I would be at home um in the sitting room trying to sit down and relax, and my whole body was just tense. Like I was moving, my legs would be shaking. It was like I couldn't sit still. I had to be on the move. Now I don't think it helped that I was in a job that I absolutely despised as well.
Okay.
So it was like a perfect storm at that time where
Yeah.
that came around and I wasn't listening to my body. It was
Mm.
trying to tell me to slow down. It was trying to tell me to relax, and then I wasn't listening. So all of a sudden, it just said, "Right, that's it.
Mm.
I'm gonna shut you down for a while."
Mm.
And I fell off a slope. I was severely depressed. Um, the obsessional thoughts were very rampant, overwhelming, and I was on this medication still. It wasn't helping. I remember going to talk to the doctor. They put me up, made me worse. They put the amount up, made me worse.
Mhm.
I went to see my first psychiatrist around that time. He put me up even further, made me even worse.
Mhm.
Um, and then eventually changed my medication from escitalopram to sertraline and on a lower dose, and that seemed to even me out a little bit.
Mhm.
So I was like, okay. And then I came back, and after a few months, then I was kind of like feeling normalish again, as in like I was able to, I felt more like me old self,
Yeah.
and but what I, some that's what my experience with medication was at the time. It was very good for me.
Yeah.
It kind of helped, but what I think it did to me was it just kind of numbed it.
Yeah.
I didn't like when I was on the medication. I didn't do any work on myself,
Mhm.
so I kind of just relied on that, and it's kind of like just putting a plaster over a wound.
Mhm.
It'll stop it for a while, but if you take the plaster off, eventually,
Mm.
things will
Yeah.
happen.
And that's
So, like,
brilliant you said that, Alo. Sorry,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
brilliant to say that because, I think, of course, I'm all for like if someone's in a very desperate place, it's not never that like you don't seek medication, it doesn't have a place. The problem is that
absolutely
when
does, yeah,
someone goes on it and they go, this is my solution, this is my solution, and they think that's the solution. And it's not the solution, it's not the only solution because the issue, as you said, is that what happens when someone goes on a year or two, it start okay, it's feeling better initially. Maybe the effects you see, them effects inside the body will still be there, and sometimes then you add in life stress, and it can feel like, why do I feel a bit more anxious? Or then they go for more, and then if they ever want to come off it, or they're still feeling like that there's something underneath there that's kind of affecting their life, and the issue is not being on medication. It's like just doing that and that only is an issue because the problem is not a problem, but the issue is not being treated at all. And really, when you think about it, from like what's happening is that we're taking a medication which is increasing certain hormones within the body, certain chemicals like serotonin, dopamine, and they give us a better feeling. And that reactive response, like that fear, that adrenaline, all that cortisol is like inhibited. It's to a degree, which is great. But then sometimes the effects wear off or a person becomes a little bit immune to it, so then they need a higher dose, and it doesn't change anything long term. It can, if someone is in a survival state, of course it can take a person from outer survival for their life into a place where they can have a little bit more understanding and get therapy and get treatment for their issue, you know?
Absolutely, yeah, I would agree 100% with that because I still had like when I was on the medication, I still would have had periods where the obsessional thoughts were, quite bad, and you know, I would have had like a couple of days or weeks, like it didn't go away. It just kind of, I thought that was the solution until it wasn't.
Yeah.
So then eventually, like what I found with medication is like if that's all you have, eventually like it stops working. Because I remember at the end, like the same thing happened with this medication. I went on a different one, and you know, I, it was actually the worst thing for me. Like if you find a medication that works with your body, it can help for a while. But if you find the wrong one, it's worse. Like, and I went on SNRIs, and they just did not suit me at all. They made my OCD far worse. I was very depressed on them. So I came back off them after being on them for like 6, 7 months. I don't know how I managed to last that long trying them, but I went back on the sertraline,
Hmm.
uh, and then things were like better because my body was probably used to that.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. It takes
I was,
time to adjust.
but like as I said, like it's funny, like because then I was kind of tapering myself down off the medication, and I was doing well, and then COVID hit, and in 2020, and like I was doing really well before that, and then that was literally in my opinion, the worst thing that could happen to someone, with an anxiety disorder or, OCD, because I was literally taken away from all of my social outlets. I was put into like one house, like, I was there with my wife now and my 2 children at the time who were very young. And like you're cut off from all your social connections, you're cut off from the rest of your family, the outside world, and all you have is time to think and ruminate. So that then kind of sent me on another it was a very difficult time for me. I'm sure, like it was a difficult time for everybody, but
Yeah.
just speaking as someone who would have OCD
Yeah.
or had OCD and would like be predispositioned to being anxious.
Yeah.
It was like the worst thing that could happen, like because you probably would have had an obsessional thought about the world ending and
Yeah.
people like it'll never happen. But then at this time, we all thought that's what was happening.
I know completely. And even if when you think about it, like someone that had like even contamination OCD,
Yeah,
just the label, but if they had that and then they always had that before COVID and then COVID came, sure, it must be so
yeah,
absolutely debilitating. Like I don't know how,
yeah,
like I must have just consumed them night and day because we were all consumed with it. People that
definitely.
mightn't have even had contamination fears. Everyone had contamination fears.
Sure,
Regarding
yeah,
everyone was obsessionally to some degree fearful. It was on the news, it was everywhere. We were consumed, we were all people were afraid of their lives. That was the reality, let alone having so much fears there that they were carrying all along. It just heightened it. I don't know how people coped in that them times. I really, you know,
yeah,
it's surprising. Obviously, they're probably dealing with the effects of it now. A lot of it's probably
yeah,
coming out even more now, where we have seemed to, if we didn't have that fear, I can freely live my life not being worried about that because I never had that. But someone that had that before and then the COVID, they're probably even dealing with them still fears now around COVID and everything has come into the mix. They're probably still living their life maybe like it's COVID, in
yeah.
isolation, unfortunately. So so then when you were during the COVID then when you were going through that really challenging time, what was then your next step then? Did you take much treatment apart from that lady you went to when you were 16 or 18, wasn't it?
So I would have tried many different talk therapies, counseling, tried CBT for a while, um, and like the first like talking to Maud, I suppose, really did help the first talk camp, but like it never like it never really healed me, if you get me. Like
Mhm.
nothing. It was nice to have that outlet and to have that support and to be told that this is quite normal.
Yeah.
Lots of people that suffer with this, and it's not who you really are, which was a big relief. But at the same time, you know, it's still debilitating. You're still having these intrusive thoughts. So, like, I would have tried, CBT, medication, talk therapies, lots of different forms of treatment, and nothing really fully worked for me.
Yeah, you're getting a little
You
bit
know,
of short-term relief. With the
yeah,
CBT, you're really challenging your thoughts. How did you
yeah,
find that? Like, did you do ERP at all, the exposure?
yeah. I did. Yeah, like I remember, I went to this one therapist, and I was telling her at the time, I was having harm OCD or whatever, and I remember one session, she brought a load of knives into the room, and I was just thinking, oh Jesus, this isn't for me.
All right.
I was like, she was like, and I was like, no, it's not like, because I knew I already had the awareness to know that like I was never going to act out any of the thoughts,
Yeah,
like, and it was just
yeah,
I was just telling like talking that this is intrusive, like it's annoying.
yeah,
Like I'm not afraid to be around things. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? But she didn't. She wasn't listening to me. She didn't hear me. So I was like, oh, I'm not coming back here. I was like, what's the point? Like, I think it was about €80 or €100 session. Like, and I was like, I'm not getting anything out of this. Like,
yeah.
like I'm literally like, so, I kind of just stopped going to talk therapies, and I remember I was just, I was going through a tough period, and then I was just like, literally, I was like, right, I'm gonna keep looking for things, and like I always looking for something different. Like I got really into Reiki, and holistic treatment. I did a few courses, and I loved it. I, kept doing some mindfulness. So I was always looking, and then I was searching the internet one day, and bang, up comes your website. I found it. I was like, oh, this is different. This is new. I said, this looks right down my street. It's a holistic approach to treating OCD, the anxiety disorder. So I got in touch with you, Linda, and as they say, the rest is history.
The rest is history. Great. And
Yeah.
it's just brilliant that I always find, even from myself as well, that, I feel like no matter where you are, always, where you're, when people listen to this with OCD and anxiety, never give up on looking. That was
Hmm.
always inside me. I'd done so much and I never stopped. Even if I had, don't get me wrong, I wasn't days I was like, this is going to be the day it's going to change. But I was just so determined to find another way. I was so determined that I wasn't born with this. Like, I don't, I wasn't born, maybe there is some genetic thing, but I wasn't born with this. Like, there was a time when I didn't have I didn't have obsessive intrusive thoughts. I didn't have OCD. I didn't have anxiety. So I was like, there has to be a way to heal this. There has to be a way to change this, that's not just covering up something or not just dealing with the symptoms. So what kind of did you liked about the approach, I suppose, the treatment that I offer people for OCD? When did you start kind of seeing changes, or when did you know, like, because you know yourself, there
Yeah.
is so much out there, like, and it's about you experience. I always say to people, I can say this is amazing, this changed my life, but like until you actually experience it, that's just someone else's words. When
Yeah.
did you know that there's something in this, like that I found something here that's going to change this for me?
I'll be honest with you. I think the first time I knew there was something in it was actually the first phone call I had with you.
Okay.
So in our first consultation, I remember speaking to you and talking to you about this, and then you told me a bit about you and how you suffered with OCD. So like straight away, I was like, oh, well, so she knows what it's like.
Hmm.
And I remember then you were explaining to me all about the nervous system and how it works, and no one had ever explained to me before,
Hmm.
like in that way, in that detail, that you need to, it's all about retraining your nervous system, getting down to the root. And I was like, right, that makes sense to me.
Hmm.
So that's the first time I was like, this actually makes sense to me. I'm
Hmm.
like, so then when I started doing the breath work exercises, I actually noticed a change pretty quickly. Um, I'd say like within a week or two, I noticed a good, decent reduction in intrusive thoughts. in how I was responding to them. I think more so how I was responding to them than them like not coming, if you get me.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't, they weren't eating me up. They weren't like, I wasn't going, I wasn't being stopped. You know, I was able to, I was just, oh, okay, that's what that is. Yeah,
Mhm.
perfect.
Mhm.
You know, and then the more I did the training, the more I did the breath work, the easier it became. And the more, I suppose, balanced I felt.
Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
that's the word. I felt balanced. I felt like content. I felt like I could deal with stuff again. Like I wasn't being thrown. Like I was like, oh, okay, that's what that is. And even if like you do have periods, because you know, like the obsessive thoughts don't stop because everyone has them,
Mhm.
but they're only an issue when you know they're debilitating or they you know you latch onto them. So
Yeah.
um, what I find with this treatment is that happens. That kind of stops. You don't you don't read into them as much. You don't latch onto them as much.
Mm.
You know, I found I was more present. I was more, you know, I was out of my head more. I was in the here and now, and that's how I felt since I started this. Um, like even today, like I wouldn't do the breathwork practice as much as I should probably, or
Mm.
but like it's just it's like my nervous system has just been changed.
Yeah.
Where like it just like I won't ever go back to where I felt because it has been retrained. Like it knows now, and I find you know the more then you know we do the work, you know, with your program, Linda, you know, the more we talk about like the ego and you know the experience, the inner child, the different parts of you, you
Mhm.
know, that you begin to heal them a little bit more too, you know.
That's amazing, Alo. And I just love the fact that what I love about, this treatment for OCD and anxiety is that you are empowered, It's all
Yeah,
about, for me, is about empowering people with the tools that they can heal themselves. So through the breath work, through like I can't change your nervous system. You can change your nervous system. No one
yeah,
can change mine. I can change mine through, obviously guided from someone that knows how to do that. But the thing about it was that I love to be able to have the ability to empower people to go, okay, this is how you do it. I'm here to support you. And like the change that happens by doing
yeah,
this organically daily, it's like the nervous system, it's like having something on default. Imagine having like an alarm bell that's
yeah,
kind of, someone pushes the button and it's the button's been held in for years, and this fire, this sirens going off like the flight, fight and freeze, and we're stuck on that. That's like a default system. That's why no amount of talking, no amount of trying to challenge thoughts, no amount of trying to just tell our body we're safe is going to change that. We have to change the default system, which is at the nervous system level, to actually
mm,
switch that off from that fire alarm, that danger, that threat, to actually go in time where it actually said you feel balanced. It didn't mean that you were never going to experience an intrusive thought, but the difference being that they're only obsessional due to that default reactive response.
yeah,
That can't be changed through, if someone says, well, like today I just won't react, like I'm going to do my best now to not react. That won't happen because this is automatic. The system is automatically running our whole body, how we breathe, our organs, how everything, our actions and our emotions. So that's why it's like having, I think the nervous system, to me, it's like the engine in the car, if
yeah.
something is, the symptoms is like something going on with the car. But unless we look at the engine, unless we actually change, put the nervous system, there's nothing wrong with your nervous system, but just put it back into the state of balance so that it's not constantly in this default mode. That's
Yeah.
why you started to feel and you've seen the changes in yourself, that wasn't about just battling the thoughts.
And as well, though, like what the breathing exercises do for you as well, though, it just gives you that time and space to go within. Because I found, like, even in the last 5 years, like, and six, like, life has gotten very busy, as in, like, you know, especially with smartphones and social media and, you know, all this TikTok, viral, Instagram, all this instant scrolling. So like you're just constantly like your dopamine is just being hit bang, 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 bang.
Mm.
So you like less and less people have time to stop and just be.
Yeah.
Like I'm a teacher, and I say this to kids in school. Like I'm like when I was your age and I went for a bus, all I could do was wait for the bus. Like I had no other option. There was nothing to do. Like so, I was there with my thought. I was allowing my head. I was allowing my mind to daydream, to process. Like, but like what now? That doesn't happen because everyone's looking down on a screen.
Yeah.
So your mind's not processing. It's just being fed constant information. You've been bombarded, bombarded. So you're switched on all the time.
Yeah. And we're
People
more
don't
disconnected from ourselves due to that, you know.
more absolutely. I was just about to say that. Like we're more disconnected from ourselves. So what I really enjoy about, and I remember saying this to you before, like when I'm doing the breath work, especially the 31-minute one, your mind goes to places, and I think about things I hadn't thought about in years. Like I think about friends, and I think about, oh, I should do this. I should contact this person, and when I, and it just gives you that opportunity
Hmm.
to just slow down. And when you slow everything down, everything gets easier and everything gets better. So it's not, and I even say this like to people now. I'm like, you think about the word depressed,
Hmm.
like to be depressed. I said like, the way to heal that is actually from deep rest,
Mm, mm, mm.
like to take the time to stop
Mm.
and heal,
Yeah.
because you cannot. I've tried it. I've tried to run away from the thoughts.
Yeah.
I've tried to keep going. I've tried everything. The only thing that's ever worked for me is to stop, to breathe, and to look within.
Yeah. It's so true.
And to
I
get,
think that, and
yeah,
that's really great wisdom, Mallow. It's so amazing you to share all that with people because we are in a world where we're just consumed with looking without for everything, like not
yeah,
just custody, just for everything, like love, relationships, everything. I need that from someone else. I need someone to make me feel better. And I get that we need support, but look without, as in trying to constantly distracting themselves. Like, people talk, I talk to so many people with different types of, OCD in general, and
yeah,
they'll, they'll tell me like, I just keep myself busy, and I'm like, but what happens when you're not busy? And that becomes
exactly.
a problem. Like you said, they were busy, 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 and then COVID hit, and I was like, shit, what am I going to do? Like, I'm not busy. Like, I just have to be with myself, and all this stuff that's already there, it's just masked. We all do it.
Just yeah, 100%.
Avoidance, everyone does it.
Yeah,
Avoidance for any types of emotions, but specifically these type of emotional responses, these fear-based emotions that
yeah,
people are living with, they're just buried within,
absolutely.
and they're
So
just
what we
coming
all
out through that. They're just coming out
exactly
with these obsessive,
like
intrusive thoughts
yeah,
and
like
compulsive behaviors.
we all kind of mask in a way. We only let people see what we want others to see. A lot
Yeah,
of the time. So when something like COVID happens and you're at home, everything comes down, the barriers come down. You're
yeah,
not masking for anyone. You're just with yourself and
yeah,
those who are, really close to you.
yeah.
Um, so like, you can't run, you
Mm.
can't hide from it anymore.
No, and
That's
that's
what
very
happened for
frightening.
me anyway.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
very frightening for people to be with themselves.
Oh, sure. That absolutely. Like
You
it's
know,
it's a, it's an uncomfortable, vulnerable place to be, to actually stop
and look,
and say like, am I okay? Like what's going on with me?
yeah,
To
and
actually take the time and stop and listen to that part of you, because like your body will give you, and your mind, your subconscious will give you like warning signs. Like if you're feeling anxious, there's a reason you're feeling anxious.
mhm,
Like and it might be an unimagined threat or a real threat. It doesn't matter. Even if it's unimagined, it's real for your body because you're experiencing it in the moment.
yeah,
So you have to like find a way to listen and to find out, okay, where is this coming from? Why am I having that?
yeah,
Can I listen to that? Can I connect with that? So
mhm,
like it's connection. Like a lot of it's disconnection. I found anyway.
yeah,
It's when you fully connect with yourself.
mhm.
That's when you
That's
that's when you
everything.
become whole. And I'm not sitting here, Linda, pretending that like, oh, my life is perfect now, and oh, I don't have any anxiety. But that's not true. I still have anxious moments. You know I still have obsessive thoughts. But what I'm saying is now they are nowhere near as debilitating as they were, because I know what they are, as in, and I know how to help So like if I ever have a really like even if I'm kind of really stressed,
Yeah.
I'll say now what I'll do, what I wouldn't have done in the past, what I will do now is I will actually stop and go, right, I'm feeling this for a reason. So what do I need to do? Right. I need to reflect on it. I need to listen to my body. So what I'll do is I'll actually sometimes I'll do go into the I'll do the breath work straight away and I'll get back into a habit and listening to that. And then sometimes like the answers will come through that. Or, another technique we've learned, Linda, is, TRE, the tension releasing exercises
Yeah.
that you do, which are brilliant. Sometimes that's really good at getting to the, your inner body and releasing tension
Yeah.
through that way.
Mm.
So these are things I wouldn't have done before. I would have been scared.
Hmm.
I would have been like, no, just push it away and keep going, push it away, keep going.
Mm.
Whereas now, from actually being okay, you know, to sit with my thoughts and just, listen and
Hmm.
breathe
Hmm.
and not run from them.
Hmm.
Because I remember saying to you before, like, I didn't realize until I started this course that when I was at home, I always had something on in the background. I had either like, if I was in the kitchen, I'd need to have a podcast on or I'd need to have a program on because I just didn't want to be alone with my thoughts. I was always trying to distract myself.
Mm. Of course, and that's amazing, Ado. And like to have all the tools to go within. You see, we're conditioned to run away from the feelings. And I
Yeah,
get that, at the start when someone comes to me, they're so
absolutely.
terrified of their
It's
thoughts.
scary.
They're
It is
so,
scary.
yeah, and they're really terrified of them. And
Yeah,
I get
yeah,
that. So I
yeah.
never recommend anyone to sit with them terrifying feelings because
But Linda, that's what's great about your program, though, because it starts you off on such, uh, you know, it's a very gentle approach to easing in. Like it's not like, okay, here's what works. 31 minutes. Start breathing now. It's
yeah,
a build up over 11, 12 weeks. You're doing small, manageable exercises
yeah.
that help retrain the nervous system. It's very slow,
Hmm.
gentle approach, and you build it up over time, which I really like. And another aspect about this I really loved as well was the support that was in place.
Hmm.
Like you were always there if you had a question or if you needed a call
Yeah.
or, talking to other people who are in a similar situation was always a massive help.
Yeah, I think that's huge to know that you're not alone. And
Massive.
you know, because a lot of people are told within the OCD when they're trying to get treatment or are getting treatment, they're told to sit with the feelings. There's a problem there because these feelings are very traumatic for a person. They're feeling highly intense amounts of distress. And when
Yeah.
we try to sit with distress, we cannot. It's so hard. And a person then can put it on themselves and go, why can I not sit with this? There must be something wrong with me. I just can't. And they put a lot of shame on themselves that they're doing something wrong or they just can't seem to do it. The reason you can't seem to do it, and it's not about you can't seem to do it, it's because it's a survival. When we're
Mhm.
feeling terrified, it's actually ingrained in our psyche, ingrained in our body to do whatever it takes to avoid, to become like we have to find a way to alleviate this sense of survival. It's built into us, like it's not
Yeah.
something we choose. So by doing this specific breath work for OCD, what happens is that, so people are clear, is that it starts to change these feeling responses. So that feeling of terrified or being so distressed and yeah, feeling I hear that word a lot, being terrified. That starts to change. This automatically starts to change so that do they need to be sit with the feelings? The feelings start to dissipate. It's not about getting rid of them. It's about changing them at a deep core level so that they're no longer terrified of the thoughts. Thoughts come in and they
Yeah.
feel anxiety. There's a difference between feeling terrified and feeling anxious. It's a whole different spectrum. One's on one side and one's on the other.
Yeah.
So it's easier for me to sit with a thought if I feel anxious than feeling terrified. Do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
very different levels. And we want people to understand that this isn't about
100%.
that you're sitting with any feelings. It's not about avoiding feelings. It's about relieving that terrifying, that survival state so that you're not in a survival state. So then you're able to look at parts of the self, like the inner child, like the beliefs, like the fears, because the fear is not so activating. It's more we have space to be even to be able to even see these fear responses more clearly.
absolutely. And like a lot of the time, like with all the best intention in the world, like with ERP, when you're doing ERP, a lot of the time the person who's doing it with you doesn't has not experienced OCD and
Mm.
doesn't understand how debilitating and how anxious
Yeah.
sitting with those thoughts can be if your nervous system is unregulated. You
Yeah.
know, it's like as you said, like the brain, the subconscious. You know, like that. It's not there. It's not there to keep you happy, to make you happy. It's there to survival.
Yeah.
And it will, if you perceive a threat, it will send off your fight or flight response and be like, "Get out of here! Something's wrong."
Hmm.
Whether it's real or imagined, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter
Yeah.
because it's just how your body's reacting to it. It's like bang. So it's very difficult when your nervous system is unregulated or dysregulated, whoever you want to say it, to sit there in a room and go over it. I remember listening, I can't remember who it was. There was a psychologist who used to go around to all these, war-torn countries to help people. And I remember he was over in Rwanda after the genocide, and he was speaking. He was over there to help. Psychologists, and a lot of Western psychologists came over, but there were a lot of African psychologists there as well. And I remember one of the African psychologists said, "What are you doing to these people?" I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You're bringing them in to a room and you're making them go through the most traumatic events they've ever been through in their life, talking about them over and over again. You're re-traumatizing them.
Hmm.
You're not actually bringing them out into like, you're not doing anything, like you're not bringing them out into the sunlight, or you're not bringing them out, into nature. You're not doing any breath work with them. You're not like no music or dance or
Hmm.
feeling like you're not. They're not connecting to their body
Hmm.
in a way, and that's what I love about the TRE. It's like you're really getting into your body and you're shaking and you
You're
know,
releasing.
you're releasing, like,
Yeah.
and like that's, and like your man, I can't remember who he was, but he literally from that day kind of changed his whole outlook. He was like, "They're right. Like, what are we doing?"
Yeah.
It's like I know there's a place for it, but like you can re-traumatize someone. It's not going to
Yeah.
help them just by talking about the
Yeah.
most,
Yeah.
destructive things that have
Yeah.
ever happened in your life. You need to release them. You need to, let them go in a different way and kind
Yeah.
of heal.
Yeah. And that's so true. And I feel like with the treatment on offer today for OCD or any kind of mental health, what I've seen is that it's just been treated with the mind. So, but
Yeah,
we miss the whole portion of, but
yeah,
we're not just our mind, we are our body. And
absolutely.
until we get the body on board with the nervous system and the somatic breath practices and different type of practice like trauma release, will we forever be stuck in the same cycle? That's why I talk to people with OCD for like 10, 20, 30 years. And they've
Yeah,
gone through so much different therapies. It's not about one's better than another. It's just that we need to get the body on board in order for
yeah,
healing to take place. True long lasting healing, not just a little bit of relief now and again. True long lasting healing
yeah.
that, okay, like if I only treat the mind with the mind, I'm only be forever stuck in cycles. Maybe I get a little bit of relief, but it's the mind relief going, okay, this is not me. I understand these thoughts are not me. But then when you go home, maybe you're stuck, you're at a trigger, and then you're back into the same cycle, and your body is reacting. If you
Well,
ever
this is
ask
it. Like,
someone, where do you feel it? They'll feel physical sensations in the body, the stomach,
always do. Yeah,
the throat, the chest, whatever it is, they'll feel it in the body. When I was going through my own journey with the OCD, I remember going to someone and they were doing ERP with me, and I had to record the intrusive thoughts I was having. I was having harm, intrusive thoughts around a family member. I just kept having this feel like this obsessional thought every time I seen the person. It's like, of course, it was so debilitating and distressing for me. And they advised me to to record the intrusive thought and play it over and over again. And I can remember like lying in bed at night listening to this, and I was absolutely traumatized because I was traumatized already from
yeah.
these thoughts. I felt so anxious about, why am I thinking this thought? Why, the constant feeling bad. Why would I think this thought? Of course, I don't want to act on it. And this constant feeling of like so like heightened anxiety that I've never experienced before. This wasn't just a bit anxious. This was 1,000,000% anxiety where for me, I felt like I'd be so anxious that I'd have to come home. Say if it was I'd say outside, so I went to the shop or whatever. I'd be so anxious when I'd come back that I'd have to go in and shower. It was just because I felt the anxiety was like as if it was crawling under my skin. I was so um hyper aware
mm,
every single thing that I'd have to go in and shower. Like it was like just to have some sort of another sensation in my body to try to calm me down, you know. And I was listening to this over and over again, and I was thinking, sure, like you don't know what you don't know, so you're just trying your best to feel any way better, and you're going to take advice from people that saying, you know, do this. This is what works for
of
OCD.
course.
It just made me feel a million times worse, and I was thinking, I just was
It's
like, oh my God, if I find a way that can help people that's
yeah,
not so much so traumatizing, I'm going to do it because I wouldn't give that to anybody,
yeah,
recommend to
and
do it at all, you
no, but like the logical brain, like we all like I always felt like I always knew I wasn't the thought, like, do you know what I mean?
know.
Like my logical brain knew that, but I was like, why am I having them? That was always the problem, the why.
Exactly. That was me.
So
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Hmm.
it's why. Why am I why this is
Yeah.
there's something wrong with why. So
Yeah.
like if you look at like 90% of everything we do is subconscious.
Yeah.
Like we don't think about it. Like our heartbeats,
Yeah.
it's subconscious. You know, we
Yeah.
breathe subconsciously. The
Yeah.
blood moves around your body subconsciously. Cells form, die, regrow. It's all subconscious.
Yeah.
So like to neglect like to neglect 90% of your body, like, you know, and only focus on that 10%, the logical brain, like through thought therapy and stuff, you're missing the picture. Like
A big
you
massive.
have to go within. You have to heal the body.
Yeah.
You know, and if you think about how powerful the breath is,
Mm.
like the breath's your anchor.
Mm.
Like it's the first thing you do in this world, and it's the last thing you do when you leave.
I love that because it is
You know,
everything in between from you
everything. It's
arrive to when
everything
you
in
leave.
between.
You know, it's everything in
It
between.
is. It's everything.
Mm.
It's there with your anchor. It's there for you. It's the first thing you do, last thing you do,
Mm.
and like when you slow your breathing down anytime, you always feel better because you know you reoxygenate the body. You send a message to your brain to say everything to your cortex, everything's okay, everything's fine.
Mm.
You
Mm.
know, and so like it's so important, and like the fact that people miss the importance of the breath and how important it is to healing. It's just
Mm.
in this day and age, even like it's just it
Yeah.
boggles me. You know,
Yeah.
so I'm just as I said, I'm so happy I found this treatment.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. It's brilliant. It's been amazing to have you on the journey, and it's wonderful to see. You know, I love that. Obviously, to see someone, you know, where they are, then to where they are now today. And where, how would you say you are now today? Like, you know.
I would say I am the most content I've ever felt in my life.
That's amazing.
And I wouldn't say I'm fully healed from OCD, but I am like way better. Like I mean, I'm really present now. I've never felt as present because I always had, you know, something in the background. But like, I feel now like when I'm with my friends and family, and you know, which is everything to me, is my family, my children, my wife, you know, my friends. You know, I'm very lucky to have such a very good group of friends as well, and such a close family. But like now, I really feel like when I'm with them, I'm with them.
Hmm.
I'm actually enjoying the time. I'm not just there. It's like sometimes previously I would have felt like I was there physically, but
Hmm.
I wasn't there emotionally. I wasn't there. I wasn't enjoying. I was just there, you know. Whereas now, like when I'm with them, that's the big change I've seen
Hmm.
over the last 2 years. Is now when I'm with people, I'm with them.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Do
How
you
do
get
you
me?
feel like the OCD still shows up in your life today?
Yeah. It probably comes up. You know, it's probably like anything when I'm a little bit stressed or I'm a little bit sick. You know, I can feel the old intrusive thoughts come back in just because it's a pattern. You know, you're so, you know, it's like a, you know, autopilot. You
Yeah.
go back to it, like, but like what I found is now I'm aware,
Hmm.
like, you know, like it's like okay, that's what this is. This is coming now. There's probably a reason why you're not feeling well or you're a little bit overstressed. So what can you do now to manage this?
Hmm.
So you know what to do. Like, you know,
Yeah.
go within,
Mm.
breathe, do something, exercise. You know, I often find sometimes like exercise is very important for me to reconnect as well. Like, and um, to make me feel good.
Mm.
Just even walking, you know,
Yeah.
is very beneficial.
Mm.
Little things that just bring you back into your body.
Hmm.
So, you know, you're not looking outward, you're kind
Yeah.
of looking inward for
Yeah.
me.
That's brilliant. I love that. And thanks so much for sharing. If there's anything you'd like to share with anyone maybe that are listening out here today that's suffering with OCD,
I would
anxiety.
just, yeah, the first thing I would say is never give up.
Hmm.
There's always help. And in particular, a program like this is very healing and helpful because it's non-invasive. It's all about support, and it's all about you learning the tools to heal yourself. So you're not relying on anybody else, which I think is the most empowering thing. It's like you find that you have it within you to heal. And when you learn that, there's no stopping you.
Brilliant. Thank you so
Yeah,
much, Alo. It's been such a pleasure, and thank you for sharing your journey. I'm sure it'll help so many people out there today listening that has OCD, and really give them encouragement and hope to know that they too have the option. They too, there is another way there, and to keep looking, or whether to contact me, or that to keep knowing that it actually is possible to get better and improve every day.
absolutely. It's like there is, and you've seen it, Linda. It's amazing the change. So that's like I just reiterate that as well. Like for someone who is suffering, like reach out, get the help because there's plenty there.
Yeah.
You know,
Brilliant, Alo. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Linda, no worries, Linda. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.